What's up, Mr. Hayhurst? Welcome,
Hello.
Wildcards and everybody. We are going to have an open house today to field all your questions about what's going on with the Kickstarters and the Game Changers and all the good stuff here at PEG. And let me mute the audio. And so yeah, we'll take your questions, guys. And obviously, probably the first big thing on your mind is like, what's up with Legend of Ghost Mountain? Why'd you guys cancel? And so we'll get to that first. So first off, Daryl, so what is Legend of Ghost Mountain? Because it's not going away, guys.
Yeah.
I'll ask that question. So what is Legend of Ghost Mountain, and what's
Right.
up with the kids?
Yeah. So Legend of Ghost Mountain was it's going to be the first in our series of martial arts, magic mystic adventures that were coming out, and we had our whole build up to it, and it didn't quite hit the way we wanted to. So I was like, all right, we need to step back from this and figure out kind of why it's not doing what we want it to do, and then come back out with it. So like I saw like a lot of comments about like, oh, was there a hidden goal or anything like that? It's like, no, it's nothing like that. Like those numbers were the numbers, but because on the inside, like we've all played it, we've all seen it, and we all know what it is, and we're like, all right, it should be more, right? And so how do we communicate that? We can't do it within 2 weeks remaining in this. And I think we've said before, like, okay, if one of those steps is let's move it to Kickstarter instead, we can't complete our other campaign first and then go to Kickstarter. It's got to start at Kickstarter. So that all kind of went into deciding like, all right, let's step back, let's redo, how we're communicating, and maybe add a little bit of material that people are asking for, and then try again.
Yeah, exactly. So I think so. One of the questions, it was a very good response, but I think the commenter missed the mark on the basic part of the comment was, I thought that like for these game changers and crowdfunders and Kickstarters that the numbers are actual numbers, and that if they fund, they need to fund, they need to be thinking like they thought that we were there was a kind of a lack of transparency with pulling it, even though it reached the funding number.
Yeah,
And
I mean, it funded. We'd have done it, but we were like, we can do like. There's a better place to try this. Let's stop and try that instead.
Right, and I think the obvious answer there is that like the campaign itself is also a project, right? And so like I don't think we have any internal doubts about the awesomeness of Legend of Ghost Mountain, and that people are going to love it when they see it. I think that the campaign itself, looking at it like where are we going to hit the numbers we're going to hit after we did a revision on offering the digital upfront, and like we thought it was kind of obvious that yes, we're going to do digital immediately following the campaign. It'll be available, but that wasn't really clear, and so I think people when they saw it and got notified and didn't see that, they tuned out, and it's hard to like crawl those people back, right?
And one of the things that we did not think of, like just because we're like, oh yeah, we're going to do this really simple offering. Like, here's what we think is a great deal in the bundle, and here it is. No, you don't even have to think about it. It's easy. And that was like, oh man, we kind of screwed that up. Like, we needed to make that a little bit harder, give people some more freedom and some options. And like you said, like we were thinking, like, oh yeah, and the digital part's a no-brainer because that's just a thing that you tack on, and it'll just be available at the end. But what we didn't consider, and that's actually important, like this is a valuable lesson that we learned, is people want to participate in these campaigns, right? They want to feel like they're a part of it. And even though it's like, for us, it's the same either way. It's like, cool, like, it's fine. It's just a PDF. We'll take your $20 or whatever. But when you do it that way, that person doesn't feel like they were part of the Ghost Mountain experience. And we're like, all right, okay. Yeah. This makes it a little more complicated, but maybe that complication is good and worth it and makes people feel more included in what we're doing. So, yeah.
Right, very true. And like also, I mean, for any kind of campaign, like hopefully there's not the actual belief in this, but I think there is kind of some expectations of like if like we pre-plan stretch goals and have them produced and have them in the pipeline before the campaign, right? And so it's I know when like some people feel like, oh, we haven't announced the new one yet, and like suddenly they think like maybe we're behind the scenes, like we get stretch goal 1 done, and then like okay, we're scrambling to figure out another stretch goal, and then we're going to announce it. Like that's not the case, right? We want to keep the momentum and the excitement about those.
That's the case.
It's true. Yes.
Every
it's not always the case.
That does happen, and it's always a scramble on our side. We're like, well, we need something new. Hurry!
That's true. But it's not always the case, right? Now, I think the other part too is that like
it's a good problem to have. That means we were more successful than we thought we would be.
Right. And so we had some great additions to this box set to kind of fill it out and make sure that the value was apparent. That the price for what you were getting was apparent. And I think.
But the other part of that is the numbers for doing those only made sense at the levels where they appeared.
Yeah.
And that's why we're like, okay. This is just a better product with this stuff. We need to figure out either how to make it more economical so we can do it that way, or produce a package that's more self-evident so that we're going to hit those numbers anyway, and then it's kind of nothing that the audience has to consider.
No, exactly, right? And Vekalas, were you guys surprised by the amount of pledges? And I think yes, right? And on a sad way, like that was the thing. Is like the dollar amounts were great because people were pledging $100 at a time, right? So that number was going up great. But like looking at the number of backers who you were hesitant, or that number wasn't as positive. And like we know
a lot of people just wanted a book, and like so we're thinking, but everyone's going to really want the complete experience because the maps are like really enhanced stuff. And the pawns really enhance it. But there are enough people that are like, and I've actually been one of those people on past campaigns. I'm like, I got lots of miniatures. I can just do this, right? Like I've got a Chessex mat. I can just do this. Just give me the book and let me go. So yeah, it's like, all right, you know what? That's, as far as we're concerned, like that's not the best experience.
Yeah.
But it's a valid choice and we need to support that. So, okay, let's figure out a way to do that that's going to make sense for everybody.
And there's other stuff here too, though. I mean, just thinking about like one, this is kind of a unique product, right? It's a little bit different than a setting, a little bit different than a plot point campaign. Even though people who are looking for those should find what they want here.
Yeah, well, and that was the other thing. Like, so what we were like, again, like things that you see in hindsight that you're like, oh yeah, like everything that we were thinking of as this is the usual thing plus, people were understanding it's not the usual thing at all. It's the usual thing minus, and it's like, when we're like, it's a saga and it's got this stuff, and people are like, oh man, what I really wanted was a plot point. And it's like, well, it's a plot point with extra stuff, like it is a plot point, like, what I really wanted was a setting. It's like, it is a setting plus, this other stuff.
Right. So
man.
And I think that's kind of most exemplified in the pre-gen characters, right? So like, we've got these 5 characters. So we had a 6th that we didn't show, but it'll be there.
My favorite.
Right. It's cool. But those are intricately woven into the plot if you want to use them that way. Otherwise, they're a template for the game master to help the characters be able to do their own characters and also weave them into the plot. So it's not, there's not that you can't use your own characters. It's that we've gone one step further and done a bit of.
The whole point was like when people move into a new genre, they don't know what to play. Like they don't understand. Like the biggest thing when I've run it at conventions is people are like, "Oh man, I don't really know Wuxia that well. Like I'm not sure what to do." And we're like, "We got you covered, right? Like here you go. Like here's a character. You're going to be flying out of the gate. It's got this niche." And we have these kind of hooks built in that you can follow up on. And one of the panels that Don and I were going to do, and I think it would have been great, right, was Don was just going to build a character like on screen, and then we were going to be like, okay, here's how I would reuse some of the existing hooks for these iconic guys for your guy.
Yeah.
And it was going to be pretty spontaneous, but he was like, well, and here's my basic idea, and I'm like, yeah, cool, I would do this, this, and this. Oh my God, like I never even thought of that. I was thinking of it. I was planning on using these other different hooks, none of which would mean anything to people quite because they haven't read the book like we have, but it's there and it's not that hard. It's pretty easy to get that full experience even with a new character, and we didn't do a very good job of explaining that, so we'll do better next time.
Right, and we thought that we had some time to pre-market it, but we also had Gen Con kind of run into stuff. So I think the right now, I think what our best option is, like, when we bring it to Kickstarter. And part of that is not that, that there's something deficient on GameChanger. I mean, we'll have it as, if you are a non-Kickstarter user, we will have it on pre-order at the same, bundle prices immediately following the campaign. So, don't worry there for those of you who like GameChanger for all the reasons it's not Kickstarter. But I think the other two is just to distinguish it from the GameChanger, let people know that, like, hey, this is. This is the reboot. We're gonna, follow along, and I think we're gonna front load some more of the kind of this, like the con that you said. Like we kind of had the choice. Like, right, we're looking at it. And we're like, that we could put a lot of effort into getting the numbers a little bit better, the communication a little bit better with a lot of work, or we could wait a little bit, relaunch with all that stuff up front, and
we'll just do it up front.
Right, do it up front and get it in front of people's eyes so they know what they're getting into. And it'd be the same work, it'd be the same product at the end, but I think we'd get a little more excitement for the campaign, right?
As in more excitement, I think it'd be easier to justify. Like, oh, I get it. And also with that option of just the book, I think is what happens on these. Like, what's happened on all our other campaigns is we've got that option, and then people see the other stuff and they upgrade. Yeah. But the fact that people were just buying the book was what moved the numbers to the place where that stuff was there. And we kind of tried to skip that step on this one and decide to determine, all right, that doesn't work. We've kind of got to do it the long way and let people come to that themselves. And that's fine,
Yeah, right. And so and that's and it's good, like, for us personally, I think it's good to figure out, like, where the boundaries are in the industry currently. Because, things are changing rapidly. It's been 2 years of upheaval. And I think so far we've surfed the wave really well. This one, I think we could have brought it home and no one would have really noticed.
It would have been fine. Yeah, that's just it. Like, it would have been fine, but, like, because we all believe so strongly in the IP, it's like, now this should be better. Yeah. We're going to put the effort in to make it better.
Right, like, let's make sure we get all of the stretch goals unlocked because they're cool. Like, they're really neat.
Because of feedback from people, it's like, well, there's places to add content, right? Like, oh, good, I'll add some more Savage Tales, because part of the original idea of this was, like, it was going to be a very tight. The original was a 32-page, like, here's the basics, and then we'll extend out, and that just exploded, right? Because we did it and we played it and we had so much fun. We're like, all right, just keep going. And then it was going to be a 96-page, and now it's 128, and now it's already like 132 after the campaign, and we're just going to keep going, right? Yeah. This is like, all right, we'll just add more Savage Tales. I'm going to add even more character options for people that want to build stuff, and even more areas. Like, we have this big map with, like, all these areas on it, which we talk a little bit about for the setting, but it's like, well, like, okay, if people want more setting, let's add a little bit more in there. Great, We were trying to be laser focused and be like, all right, here's a thing, and then there's this other stuff that either you can do something with, or we'll visit in later products. Now it's like, all right, well, we'll talk about that a little bit more now, and I think hopefully that is more enticing to people.
Yeah, right, and the feedback was great. So, like, thank you guys who did the feedback form. It was very informative for us on kind of like what your perspective on the whole thing is. So
we were doing an experiment, and your feedback helps us determine the experiment results. We're like, all right, that concoction blew up. What next?
Right. We thought they wanted this. No, they want this. That's great. We'll give it to them. So for those of you just joining, we are going to be likely in the new year, so probably earlier in the new year than not, but we will be relaunching Legend of Ghost Mountain on Kickstarter, and it will also be on the pre-order, immediately following that campaign, on the pre-order for the GameChanger.
Yeah, and part of that is, like, additional material, and part of that is just a window, right? Like, we can only launch so many Kickstarters, and, we've kind of got a schedule, and it's like, all right, now Ghost Mountain's going to have to go on that schedule, and something else is kind of got to get booted off for a couple months.
Yeah, right. So we're just going to give a little. I know that some of you are very, very excited and hoping to get this sooner. But we've got a lot of stuff that's kind of like for instance, coming up here in October. We've got some really cool stuff that's very October themed that's coming out. So we can't really bump those back and it make as much sense. And so we will be Legend of Ghost Mountain. It's not going away. It'll be back. It'll be on Kickstarter.
I mean, we can speak about what's coming in October.
Oh
right?
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about the very next game changer first. Like that's the cool one. So tell us. And Halloween 3. Yes, Halloween 3
Oh,
is coming.
yeah, I was going with Halloween, but you're right. Like before even Halloween, we've got Lost Colony. So yeah, well,
Right.
let's talk about Halloween first, and then talk about Lost Colony since there's more meat there.
So we are repeating Halloween 3. So it's going to be our end of October, that weekend, the Thursday, Friday, Saturday of the end of October for a virtual online convention for all things Savage Worlds, and so we'll be kicking that off again, and which is Halloween. And is it the Revenge of the Holler, or is it number 3? Is it Children of the Corn? Yeah.
Well, since it's a horror theme, horror companion, y'all, and Pine Box Middle School's coming.
Right. So so the horror companion. So the current plan is to do horror companion and Pine Box Middle at the same time. Those we're really excited about those. Tracy's done a really great job working with Ed and Preston and the whole crew on from ETU to do Pine Box Middle. Some of the early art is really great. I don't know if we have it in this one. Let me see if I have any of the character art. It's not. Let's see. Can I change? I got to change the whole thing to go check these other ones out. Let's see where we hid those.
Well, we're fantasy companion right now. What is that?
Some are showcasing. I don't know where I hid that art, but the character arts were really, really cool. And
we're on a trip here.
Right, we're changing the coach changed, but the
I put you on the spot by asking about this stuff. Sorry.
We're good. We're doing it live. So but I'm excited about that one because it's really kind of one of the niche. Like, I think Kids on Bikes has been done. It has been done as well as Savage Worlds could do it. But this brings a really cool, okay, for instance, I gotta spoil this because I think it's the coolest mechanic ever. There's in Deadlands we've got the horror level, like the fear level that's around. It changes how the game is played. It's a meta mechanic, but it is very hands-on in what happens to your character and how hard things are. So in place of the fear level, there is because it's modern, right? And I think cell phones have kind of ruined modern horror for a lot of people until you figure out how to do them, right?
Yeah,
until you figure out how to deal with them. Well, the great thing about this is that the solution to cell phones is the meter is the number of bars. And so how many bars your cell phone has in any given scenario changes the mechanics of that scenario. Love it. Oh my God. Chef's kiss. It is such a brilliant way to handle, why don't you just call the police? And but also just keep that kind of crank it up, crank it down level of excitement and horror and fun for like a middle school.
Well, just
crowd.
Google it. Yeah, not on the top of this mountain. We're not going to.
Right?
I don't care how close the nearest tower is. We're going. Go on hiking anywhere. You're like, no, that's not going to happen.
Right? It's so brilliant, and just seeing how that's play testing and little tweaks to that's a lot of fun. I mean, I want to spoil more, but it's like I'm super excited about play testers getting a hold of that and being able to use that in their campaign because it's such a perfect way to do that mechanic and not have to do 80s, right? Well, there are no cell phones in the 80s, so you don't have to worry about the problem or whatever.
And then modern too. It's like part of it is like, oh yeah, you want to go adventure, you're going to have to get away from your parents because they don't want to let you out. You're not latchkey kids anymore, or if you are, you've got other problems at home.
Right? It's amazing how the real world changes and makes writing adventures so much harder.
But like I say, but it gives that new material to lean into, right? It's like, oh no, these are the new problems, that we're solving.
Yeah, and then obviously with that, the horror companion, which is highly anticipated, a whole lot of fun. Shane's done some brilliant work on that, and I think he's been posting a little bit on Facebook. He's kind of final editing for his stuff on there, and so we're excited to bundle those together. And I think the reason we're bundling those, I think on Kickstarter, one, I think it worked really well on the last.
I don't know that we're bundling them though.
I think we're doing both at the same time on Kickstarter.
I know we're both doing both at the same time, but all of the companions have been game changers.
Oh,
so they might be parallel, but it might be parallel. One on Kickstarter and one on GameChanger.
Okay, that works too.
So I don't know that for a fact, but stay tuned. Right?
Yeah, we'll figure that out because I think one of the things with the Pathfinder for Savage Worlds was we've got the Advanced Player's Guide and we've got the Curse of the Crimson Throne, And, yes, you might want to be able to take out the new advanced characters with the Curse campaign, but, that advanced player guide is good for all of your Pathfinder games, whether you're playing Rise of the Rune Lords now or
That's a
your
cool
own
book,
adventures.
yeah.
So, that was a little risky going, like, should we do them separate? Should we do them both? Should we have the levels? So, I think as we figured that out, but those will both be coming, hopefully, around the same time. And then the next one, which is a little bit of art over hanging out behind you, which is also on your business card. Which, and
I chose him. This is Nikolai from Lost Colony. He's one of the villains, and he existed like long before I came to Pinnacle. But I just laughed because it's like, oh, bald kind of dude wearing black with a gray beard. Yeah, okay, that's me. I might as well lean into this.
I love Little House of the Hollers. We're taking suggestions. I'll get the page stuff. So the page will be coming soon, guys, for Halloween. So if you want to be a game master, we're gonna take your submissions. It'll be probably tomorrow. I think I'll get that page up. So I'll send out an email to everybody who participated in the first two.
I think it should just be Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, and
right?
then people will be like, "But it's nothing like the first two Halloweens."
Right? And I tried to make that joke with Shane, and he didn't get it. I'm like, but that was the one that we did with the thing, and it was just totally different, and no one. It was like. And he's like, I don't know what you mean, man. So I'm like, I guess we can't.
That's because nobody saw Halloween 3.
Right? No one actually saw it. That's why no one actually watched it. But yeah, but we want you guys to show up. So we'll be taking game submissions, and we'll open up those pretty soon because we're about 2 months out, but that's enough time to get on people's calendar. And so I think one of the very first questions was from Tim. He said, "Tell me, what is a Lost Colony? Don't give me the synopsis. Give me the meat and potatoes of what is Lost Colony."
Well, the meat and potatoes of it is, if you've played Deadlands, right, and you know that Deadlands has a history that goes past the Weird West and into the 30s and into the modern and then into the future. And in the future, there's nuclear war and Earth is obliterated and the bad guys win, right? Like the Earth is a wasteland. It's called Hell on Earth. It's its own setting, and yeah, it's bad guys win. Earth is a dead land. Reckoners walk the planet. Mm-hmm. Before that happened, we had Space Colony out in a whole distant, system, the faraway system, right? And it's that kind of raw, low tech, travel, and getting there that you see in movies like Aliens or Pitch Black or oh my God. Sam Neill.
Oh,
help me. Event Horizon.
Yes, that one. Oh God, Event Horizon. So
yeah,
creepy.
so this is Event Horizon is absolutely like one of the pillars of the setting, right? So it's like that kind of stuff, and then move it out there, but it's clearly based on Deadlands, right? So you still got that Deadlands influence. You've got the Harrowed. You've got the hucksters and stuff like that. And the hunting grounds, where the evil beings lurk, is still there. And the whole idea is, yes, so you're on this new colony, spaceships and, machine guns and things like that. And Earth is trashed, and there was a gateway that connected the two. And a couple, 5-10 years ago in setting, that tunnel collapsed. And so now the Lost Colony out here in the faraway system is the Lost Colony. Right, they're it. They don't know that there's nothing on the other side anyway, right? Like they started getting word back, like, oh, Earth, yeah, no, we're it, right? Yeah. Like if we don't make it, there is no humanity anymore. And unfortunately for everyone, the last things to come through are the Reckoners. So the bad guys that trash that world are now over on this one. And it kind of kicks off this whole last stand that's going on. And the big Hell on Earth appearances are the Reckoners themselves, right? So everyone, if has played Hell on Earth, knows that they actually get a break. Like there are survivors in the radioactive wasteland, and they get cut a little bit of a break because the Reckoners get sent off to Lost Colony. So they're like, oh, whew, all right, we still got radioactive monsters, and we're all dying and all that. But and we're living in a deadland. But on the bright side, there's not these massive, creatures of evil stomping around anymore. And because you've got to defeat them, sometimes you've got to pull things from their past and either find a way back to Earth, what's left of Earth, or hopefully somebody brought it over, right? And Maw of
Well,
Oblivion.
that's the biggest thing, right? It's like, so like so if you missed out on the Lost Colony Kickstarter, so this is a good chance to get all that stuff if it entices you, because that was one, like, it was like the first one after Suede, and
It was, yeah. A lot of people, I think, it kind of flew under the radar, or they didn't know what Lost Colony was, and this is kind of our chances. Like, my task, that Shane gave me is to put out material for the game lines to keep them alive and in the center of attention. And like Lost Colony was on the top of that list. Like, it came out, it's cool, it's got all this stuff, but we haven't had a chance to do anything with it. So Maw of Oblivion is, all right, hey, look, 96-page book, and hey, everyone, if you just want the book, that's cool. Like, we'll actually have that.
It's all in there.
Pledge level this time. But also, like, if you missed out on Lost Colony and this looks cool, we'll have old Lost Colony, the and it's Suede, right? The first Lost Colony Suede book, and the box set, which had like all the bennies and bits and bobs and things that you could possibly want, if you want them, right? But and the whole idea with Maw of Oblivion is most of Lost Colony takes place on what's Banshee, the living planet, right? And Banshee has a consciousness, and she is a good being, right? And she is a natural weapon against the Reckoners. They are weakened in her presence, and she produces miracles. Just like the Ghost Rock kind of comes from the hunting grounds and appears in places, and it's kind of a sign of the Reckoners. Combine Lost Colony with, yeah. So I'll talk about, one of these days we'll get back into Last Parsec, right? And where these are branching, like how we distinguish the two is Lost Colony's got the supernatural horror stuff and that lower, rugged, dirty tech. Last Parsec doesn't have the supernatural elements and has like that higher tech. We've got shields and things like that. Ain't no shields in Lost Colony, right? Like, ain't no ray guns or bullets. And luck to you, right? Which, right? When you're fighting a Reckoner, is not enough.
Right, and Lost Colony really offers that opportunity to kind of bookend the Deadlands story, right? But the fact is, like,
it is.
The Reckoners aren't just here for flavor. You're gonna get to kill them if you succeed.
Yes,
that's the whole thing. That's the big deal.
In Lost Colony that came out on Kickstarter, the plot point included in that book, you go up against war. And at the end of that plot point, war is gone. We're down to 3 Reckoners at the end of that plot point. And this one, Maw of Oblivion, is famine. And you guys can probably guess where we're going with this with the next 2. And if you followed those, there's actually like a 5th force that's rising in the area. So once we've resolved the Reckoners one way or another, story's not over. There's still stuff to do.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Is I think one of the things is that before I even talk about this, so of course the one thing I needed was already here in this one. These are the kids.
Oh yeah.
Zoom in. Those are the Pine Box Middle Schools.
Yeah, Pine Box Middle School. This is not Lost Colony.
Right. Yes.
These poor kids would be so dead in Lost Colony.
Did you ever see that movie? It was called Space Camp, and it had young Joaquin Phoenix, where the kids go to space camp and they accidentally get launched into space in the shuttle. It'd be like that, but with like Event Horizon horror. At the
I was saying with a lot more blood and body
right.
horror and things. Yeah.
But in digging for that, I did find some cool art to show you guys for Lost Colony. So this is Lost Colony. This is the next GameChanger coming up here in a few weeks.
Coming like really soon, like 2 weeks. So that's a freighter, the Reckless. You get a ship in the original book, and the other nice thing about Maw of Oblivion is the first couple pages are like, hey, for those who came in late, right? Like, if you missed the other stuff, here's what happened. Here's the stats for the ship. Pick up where you and just play this. You've got a ship, or if you want to, we've got base hulls and mods, and shockingly, those base hulls and mods are compatible with the upcoming science fiction companion. So,
but this
if you want to preview,
this
isn't a sci-fi companion, but they're compatible. They're meant to work with it, so that you're not going to get a different rule set, in a year or whenever that one comes out. Pirates, space pirates, because everyone loves space pirates.
Right? And then
on the art order on this one, I actually asked it to resemble. There was an old toy called the Intruder, and you'd like hold it, and if you pointed it down, its engines would go, and if you pushed it up, they'd go, and you'd pull the little trigger, and its lasers would shoot, and it was the best toy ever. So I wanted my space pirate to look like that.
Oh, I love it. That's the best. And then here's a little glimpse of some horrors.
Yes, gravity rates.
I mean, just the name alone. I mean, come on now, gravity rate, like, yeah. Players.
Yeah, because the Maw of Oblivion is a black hole, right? And Famine's sitting on it, and she's getting power from it. So not only is she Famine regular, but she's got minions with gravity powers, and gravity's fun.
Yeah, that's so cool. I just love that part of it. It's so unique. It's original. It's not just Deadlands in space. It's Deadlands considering space tech, right? I mean,
right.
The fact that like you've got a black hole in Famine, that makes perfect sense. I mean, just
right. So what do black holes do? They consume, right? Like
it's just
perfect
it's so it's so good. So we're really excited for this campaign. This one's going to be a lot simpler than our Legend of Ghost Mountain.
On our side, it'll be a lot more complex because there'll be like 7 different levels, But for you guys, it's like whatever. I want the book. I want more stuff. I want digital only, and we'll, like you say, we'll be sure to cover anyone's needs. If they're overseas, great. Take the digital. Here you go. Because poor overseas people, like they look like, oh my god, the shipping's outrageous. And we're like, that's at cost. That's just the shipping. I don't know what else to do, right?
Right. Well, a good question, a good thread came up. So, like a little divagation on the shipping thing for that. Like, so one guy's like, there's a little bit of this education, like because I think, kind of like how Amazon has kind of trained people to have unrealistic expectations for what shipping really is in the world.
I can afford to run $1 billion deficit.
Right? I mean, that's their scam. That's their loss leader to get you on their platform and make you a customer and then buy Prime and sell you all the other stuff that's like, digital. Anyways, regardless of that conversation, I think board games and how board games operate versus RPGs is a little bit different. Board games have amazing margins because, I mean, if you think about it, like, we have to put art in an entire book and print a book, and book printing is a lot more complicated and expensive than deck printing or, like, a tabletop, foldable cardboard kind of thing. There's a lot more to it. It's a lot more expensive. Our margins aren't as good.
Well, and like, this has always been a thing with Savage Worlds specifically, right? Because we come from the pulp world, right? Like, and as pulp adventures, pulp writers, and all that, our product really is supposed to be kind of cheap and dirty, right? Like, and like that's what makes sense to us, right? Like, here you go, here's a $20 book, enjoy it, tear it up, buy another one, buy one for your friend. We don't care, it's $20, right? But where that doesn't work in the modern world is $20 for the book and then another $20 to ship it, and that doesn't feel like as good a value. So we've been trying to push more production value into the book to make it worth, like, okay, we're going to do a $40 book now, and with full color art and hardcover and this and that and the other thing, rather than what we were doing, so that it doesn't feel as horrible to get it shipped to you if you're ordering direct. And like that's got its challenges too, and that's why on our side we love the boxes so much, because like, oh, good, like here's a bunch of stuff. And now, $20-$30 doesn't feel as horrific when it's like $100 box of crud that you're getting. As long as we make that stuff awesome enough, then it feels good. It feels a lot better than a $20 book and $30 to get it there. Because often the shipping's about the same either way. So
it really is crazy. I mean, and that's the other part too. So I mean, so the one thing is like shipping's expensive, and like other kind of people in our adjacent industries heavily subsidized shipping. So for instance, on a lot of the board game Kickstarters, a lot of your pledge is just covering up their European friendly shipping or US friendly shipping. Your pledge is going towards, subsidizing the shipping. We don't do that. Like we subsidize some of the shipping, but we don't hide that in the price of what we're selling.
Yeah. Or a lot of them, like a lot of times what they do, and this is smart, right? And this is something we try to avoid, which is buy the product, and then the shipping is a separate cost later. And every time we've tried to do that, it doesn't feel good, right? Because you're like, oh yeah, I bought my $40 book or whatever, and that felt good, and now I've got to pay another like $20 to get it. That does not feel good anymore. So it's like, okay, we've got to do that up front. And then the big problem that you get is if you've got any kind of issue in the production line, like say a pandemic or or shortages or anything like that, then by the time you actually ship it, that $20 that you did for shipping is actually like half of what it is, and we just eat that other $20. It's like, yeah, I mean, we did it, So that's why a lot of people push it to the end, despite how it feels. But we don't want to do that because it's not a good user experience. So
right, and then that's kind of the thing. Like one of the interesting things on the back end on our website. So one of the options for you guys, if you want to try to limit your exposure to shipping, is get in on a Kickstarter or a GameChanger, because we put in GameChanger and Kickstarter specific special pricing on shipping. And the reason we can do that, right, is that unlike an individual order, that like if you ordered something tomorrow and it's not part of a crowdfunder and it's got to go to like Bulgaria, we can't put it on a pallet and save money by doing a big pallet shipment. But if we're doing a Kickstarter or a GameChanger, our numbers get high enough where we can justify a special pallet that just goes to Europe at one time, and anything else from our warehouse,
exactly.
Even if
and
it's
then just
not
stack it on,
it gets stacked on top. And so that's why we can offer those better rates. Is that your Rifts bennies, when they're coming with your Crimson Throne pledge, can go on that that one pallet, and then we can make it more reasonable there. So that's kind of why that works. Is that if you get it on the GameChanger, and the other good thing too is you can upgrade those, update them, add more product to them. We're kind of doing like 9 months now is kind of where our window is. We kind of brought it down from a year, which thank God. The year turnaround was like we weren't happy with it, but that was the way the world was.
Right.
But that's coming down. But we're hoping to get back to 6. Be reasonable.
Like there's going to be like a big wash of stuff coming out. Like now that we've gotten through some of the shortages and stuff, it's like, all right, stuff's moving again, and I think that will also like generate a little more excitement of like, okay, I feel better
in your hands.
Yeah, exactly. I feel better getting into the next one when I got the previous one here. So like that's on us. Like
and we've never not delivered, right? So like that's not an issue, in the past. Not to say it won't be in the future, but it won't be. But that's never been the issue. But there is that anxiety on like, hey, I paid for this how long ago, and then we're just getting. So one of the nice things is when we give you guys the update on the Kickstarter, the GameChanger, which says like finalize your addresses. That's also a cue for you to be like anything else you want to have shipped, in a week or two when this is going to be shipping. Add it to your pledge now, so that it makes it on that pallet that can get to Europe a little bit cheaper, or Australia.
And the really painful option that exists, and this like hurts as a user, but I'm glad it exists, right? Is like if there's multiple ones that you've gone in for, or even add on later, you can actually combine them into one by waiting for that last one. And what sucks about that is like, oh man, like the other stuff's ready and I gotta wait until the new thing is shipping to get it. But it does combine the shipping and probably is a third the cost, so that's an option that exists now. We haven't really been publicizing it, but a lot of work went into being able to mechanically do it, and it's exciting. Like, right? So for people that are dying from shipping, it's an option.
I know. Well, and it's tough for us too, because it's like Canada. Canada is just very expensive to ship to. It's like it's not that expensive to ship it to the border, but then Canadian shipping is kind of ridiculous, and it's not subsidized for us like it is like by Canada inside Canada. So it's like. That those are just the costs, and it's like it shouldn't be that expensive. Right, I know.
Buy a catapult and wheel it up there, and be like,
right? Have these illicit like little Windsor warehouse. It was like, we'll drive it across the border for you into what was it, Windsor and Detroit are the two. Like, meet us in Windsor at 3:00 in the morning, and we'll hand you off your stuff. But I mean, some people do that. Some people do have American PO boxes.
If we end up in jail, everyone,
Right.
this is why. This is what happens.
Glad that we did it on stream.
They heard us talking about it, and that's it.
But I mean, the sad thing is, like, people were doing, like, keeping American PO boxes, but then they couldn't get to them because the border closed for several months during the pandemic, and it was just, that wasn't a good situation. But so we are trying to find better shipping ways. Like, for instance, we just partnered with Fun again. So for our bigger game changers, here's the thing, we are large enough to attract a very healthy overseas player, and you're not really customers, your family, whatever, but customers overseas. And but we are not large enough to really maintain an overseas warehouse. I mean, that's the thing, is we've got so many thousands of SKUs that are in our current warehouse from 25 plus years of products. And believe me, people do buy old product. It's so the problem is even if we did maintain a separate European or Australian warehouse, if you added one item that wasn't stocked in that warehouse, it would just kill the whole timeline. It'd have to, one item would have to get shipped from America to that warehouse before they would even start it. So that's a challenge for us versus, say, a board game company where they have 5 SKUs. They've got 5 big board games. Everything is just in one box. They don't part it out. There's no components. Like, because we want to give you guys options and we like them, and there are those different levels of buy-in. Those are also, it turns a one SKU. That was kind of the idea with Legends of Ghost Mountain. Is like, can we get away with doing this with one SKU?
I mean, that was literally what we're thinking, and it was kind of like, oh yeah, that didn't work out.
Right? Okay. Customers don't want one SKU. They want all the options. Like, great, fine, we'll give you all the options. But that also means it's really hard for us. Like, if we had to part out, like, Legend of Ghost Mountain or any of our other projects as the box set, but also the books, but also the things. I mean, it's kind of the reason that, like, the Deadlands Companion went out of stock so fast, is we had no idea how much the post-Kickstarter demand for that companion book would have been. And so we had enough that was in the boxes, but no, we didn't have enough that was outside of the boxes. So it's like, great, we can tear apart boxes to give you the facilities, or we have to wait for a whole other print run, and that'll take a couple months. And it's like, well, I guess we really have to wait for the print run. It's like, that doesn't look great for us, but it's like so much enthusiasm for that one thing that was because we offered it as a separate SKU outside the box, and there was a lot of demand for it. So that's kind of why it's. I mean, we talk about this constantly. I mean, Simon talks about it. Every couple of months we have a get together and say, okay, is this still the right plan for us? Should we do separate? Should we do a separate shipping from our printer? Should we send one pallet to America and one pallet to Europe and one pallet to Australia? And so far, unless we really limited the kind of diversity of products we offer you guys, those strategies don't make sense. So that's kind of why that's kind of the answer why we're
other thing people can do, and I've got this deal with my local game store. Go to your local game store and tell them, order this, because they can order it direct, and that, like, game stores have a whole separate shipping thing, and you never see it. That's the best. Yeah. So, like, I've even had books from Pinnacle that I just go to my local guy Drew at Isle of Games and be like, yeah, I want this thing. They get it. They get them in. I'll buy it off the shelf.
Right, and Isle of Games is awesome. They order all our stuff.
They
all
are
stuff in stock.
Yeah,
so
cool. like props to my local guys. But this is a deal that anyone can do, right? Like, you just got to con your local game guy, into joining up, right?
Right. And you send them our way, like info@pegging.com, and we'll get them part of our retailer program. And here's the deal. So, like, our retailers, there's no order minimum. So if you want to pre-order one item, we can get it to the retailer. The shipping is entirely separate. And they get it at the retailer rate. So, like, there's no reason for you not to go to your retailer and be like, hey, sign up with Pinnacle at info@pegging.com and pre-order these 5 things. Like, that we can do that through your retailer, even better than we can do it for you if you're overseas. So yeah, get in on that train. And then oh, look, John Doom knows. Look at that.
Yes, John Doom's local.
Right, see, that's cool. I didn't know John Doom was local. So here's a question before we split out. So stick around, folks, if you want to check out our summer showcase starting at the top of the
real
hour.
Stars are coming.
Right, we got all the streamers. We got Cheyenne and Candace and Megan and Carrie. That'll be the top of the hour, and I'll be hosting last minute. But here's a question on the sci-fi campaign: are you going to add all the monsters from Lost Colony to the sci-fi compendium?
So, never say never, but the plan is no, right? Because Sci-Fi Compendium, the whole idea of the companions is to help you make a toolbox to build these genres on your own. And Deadlands monsters do not fit into general sci-fi stuff. So this is Deadlands stuff, right? So like a xenomorph or something you might see in the Sci-Fi Companion because they're just freaking everywhere, right? But a gravity wraith or I mean, I can't even remember some of the names of some of them, but like they're, oh my god, some of the horrible creatures that burrow up from the hunting grounds into the asteroid fields and things like that. It's like, oh no, these are magic, and they've got coup in Deadlands. That wouldn't fit in a general science fiction campaign, so I would not expect to see them make the translation. So that's the whole point of those different streams, right? And why Ghost Mountain and a speculative martial arts companion, which by the way, don't hold your breath, it's not coming soon, would be different, right? It's like, no, this stuff is for Ghost Mountain, and it's not going to be general to this. It's not going to be that generic thing. There will be a couple of things that cross over, like what we tried to do with the Fantasy Companion and Savage Pathfinder, right? It's like these are definitely approaches to the same genre, and I mean, at the surface they might even look similar, but there was a lot of work that went into making sure that these are very distinct products with very different goals and very different stuff, right? Whereas like for a minor example, Pathfinder has class edges, and that's not in Fantasy Companion. Like that's not how we roll there, right? And like flavor to taste, right? Steal from stuff as you want, but that's the whole idea behind it. And why, in our mind, one of our goals, like anytime we pitch a product, right, is what's the value to this product on its own? Is it standalone? Is it a sequel to something great? You can reference that. If it's not, it has to justify its existence.
Nice. Yeah, no, very true. Very true. And another thing too is, I think you also want to make sure that, like, yes, the Pathfinder bestiary is definitely compatible with Savage Worlds, but the big caveat is designed for characters starting with several more advances than you're expecting. So
that's all right. Savage Worlds isn't big on like challenge levels, anyways. Whatever, it's a monster. Right? If that thing looks scary, run.
Right. So Star Anvil asks, any expanded rules for cyberware? I'd say in both in Sci-Fi Companion and
So Lost Colony, no, we don't do, like, there are cyborgs in Lost Colony, but they're all from Hellstrom Industries, which, if you know Deadlands at all, means you don't want to be one. So for example, one of the cyborgs that we've got in there that's new, and this is a player option if anyone really wants it. We're calling them a Razorjack, right? And so they've got spirit traps that can capture spirits in Manitou. And Vanessa Hellstrom, who runs Hellstrom Industries now, has managed to make a cybernetic implant that uses a spirit trap to take a captured Manitou and install it into someone. So you're kind of like an artificial Herod with your own little Manitou, like screaming at you the whole time, and you can use their magic. But just like a Herod, you use the Herod deck. Like you're like, oh, I need more power points. Okay, you've got more power points, but say goodbye to your humanity rating. Draw the card, So those are the kinds of things that we can do very specific to Lost Colony that would not fit in something like Last Parsec or a more general Sci-Fi Companion. But Sci-Fi Companion, oh heck yeah, cyberware, a lot of it. Yeah.
Right, and that one's not coming soon either. I mean, just be totally honest, like it's
on the docket.
Unlike
Martial Arts Companion, it's on the docket, but it's still not soon. Right.
We've only have so many windows, and and that one's special too. I mean, it's highly anticipated, so I think making sure the polish.
Favorite. Right.
Right.
That's the one I use the most.
There's a lot more crunch there, right? I mean, if you think about like the levels of like how much fluff we give people, how much you crunch, like spaceships and all cyberware, and like there's just cool stuff that we haven't covered a lot in the Savage Worlds genre yet that needs to go in there. So, all good things there, and yes, I mean we do we are looking at scale and making sure but that's kind of changed considering from like Suede to pre-Suede too.
Yeah, so. And if you want to preview that, y'all, and I can't remember if it's free on the downloads, I think it is. But there's a vehicle, like the Suede vehicles it's either a companion or whatever it's called. It's got like, hey, look, if you're building vehicles just without rules and components and whatever, but just here's what the toughness should be, here's what the speed should be, and it does like driving, flying, boats, different eras, and gives you an idea of how big they are, how tough they are, that kind of stuff. That is also compatible with Science Fiction Companion. So if you want a preview, that's a resource that's available, and you can add that to the ship stuff that appears in Lost Colony, which again is going to end up compatible, and the weapons and things like that, you can stack them on and mods, and you can actually back engineer quite a bit of what we're doing based on this. And that's been our struggle, is like we've got to kind of nail that down, even though Science Fiction Companion is still a ways off, to make sure that we don't paint ourselves into a corner later.
No, exactly. So that's kind of the end of our show for today. I got to get ready.
Vehicle Guide, by the way, is what I'm trying to think of. Suede Vehicle Guide.
Yes. And John Doom agrees. So we got to get ready for our summer showcase, which is coming up here at the top of the hour. So if you guys are interested in this, kind of like the general, like maybe office hours, we might start doing those every other week or once a month or something kind of cool, where you guys can just come in and just ask random questions on what's coming up and what's going on.
Why would you do that? All right, let me tell you. There's a reason, y'all.
But yeah, I mean, the viewership for this has been pretty amazing, and so long story short, guys, the Legend of Ghost Mountain will be coming to Kickstarter early in the next year. Our very next game changer is going to be the Maw of Oblivion for Lost Colony. And so you haven't got into Lost Colony goodness, that one will be a little easier to jump on board, and it'll be fun. That'll be coming up here pretty quickly. And then stay tuned for next month for horror and Pine Box Middle School and Halloween 3. So that's kind of all the stuff we talked about today. And then a lot of shipping stuff too. So the
shipping, man.
Shipping, yeah. It's kind of like that quote from Blade Runner, Rucker Hauer's like, I've seen things off of the battleships. Like that's the shipping situation right now. Like I'm not on those ships, but
no, the real quote for that is Pinhead. I have such sights to show you.
Oh, jeez. It's killer out there. But yeah, so we'll be back at the top of the hour, and then we'll have Daryl back on. See, there's Carrie. Carrie's going to be on. She's going to be on here in about 7 minutes. So we'll be back at the top of the hour for the summer showcase for all of our streamers.
Yes, for the real stars, like the actual personable, charismatic people.
Right, all the people who didn't dump stat charisma like me. So we have Megan, Candace, Terry, and Cheyenne. And guys, we'll see you soon. And if there's a demand for more kind of office hour stuff like this or open houses, just let us know, and we'll get them on the schedule. Other than that, so folks, I put in the links. So on YouTube, there's a link for the YouTube people to catch us back in here in 7 minutes. If you're watching on Facebook, there's the 2 hours ago the StreamYard link, and I put it in the chat. And if the Twitch people, just stay on Twitch for the next 5 minutes and we'll be back live at the top of the hour. So catch you guys later. Cheers.
Thanks, everybody.